To you, Mr. Howell, thank you for your statement. Thank you very much for being here. And then I now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. Well, I think that after having heard three of you, we're all on the same page. We agree that Maduro stole the elections. You guys have, you gentlemen have said that severe and unprecedented repression, minors 10 times higher than before the elections, the detentions that the CNE guy or that gentleman that now is in hiding said that Maduro did not win, inhumane conditions to minors. The CNE is not publishing the voting tallies. So we all agree. So my question this to you, to Mr. Sullivan, is what? On September 1st, 33 days after Maduro did everything that you guys described, the United States renewed the license for Chevron to operate in Venezuela. If you don't have money, you do not have money to grease the repressive apparatus or the police state. Why did you do that? Why the State Department renewed that license? Specific, general, individual. We don't need to go into the words. I just want to know, why did you do that? And do not tell me that Treasury told you, because state dictates and Treasury follows.
Thanks for the question, Chairwoman Salazar. As you know, decisions about sanctions are made with interagency consultation. They are taken. The sanctions are administered by the Treasury Department, and they make the announcements on them.
State tells Treasury what to do. Do not try to fool me, Mr. Sullivan. We know that the State Department is the one that dictates foreign policy. And if the State Department did not want Chevron and Repsol and the others to have a general or individual or specific, whatever type of license, Treasury would have not granted it. Am I correct?
We continue to review our sanctions policy.
Yes or no? Why did you, the State Department, renew the license for Chevron, our company, 33 days after Maduro did everything you guys described? There has to be a reason. Did the White House put pressure on you? Did they call and say, hey, we need free, cheap oil?
Well, as I mentioned, Chairwoman Salazar,
yes, sir.
The U.S. government coordinates on these issues. Treasury administers the licenses, and we continue to review our sanctions policy with respect to Venezuela with a view to advancing our overall objectives of promoting, in this case, a democratic transition.
How can you promote a democratic transition if we have agreed that Maduro stole the election? And all we're doing is helping him stay in power and creating another migrant crisis, because the other gentleman, Mr. Roy, just said it. We're talking about 4 million Venezuelans have said publicly that they're going to leave if Maduro stays, because there's no food, because there are no jobs, because they're repressive apparatus. So again, explain to me how come you decided to not only give to Chevron, but to all the others that are just fueling the regime. Tell me.
So since the election, as you've seen, the U.S. has been very active with our international partners in developing concerted international pressure in favor of transparency, publication of the
You are not answering my question, Mr. Sullivan. Why did you renew the oil licenses for Chevron? Why?
So administration of our sanctions policy is something that we do as part of our overall diplomatic strategy in Venezuela. And we continue to review that policy, trying to choose targeted actions that will best contribute to our overall efforts to create conditions for the Venezuelan people to be respected.
I understand, but you sponsored the Barbados Accords. And the Accords said that you were going to lift sanctions, meaning the State Department, the United States of America was going to lift Sanctions if Maduro played by the rules that he signed in Barbados. Maduro, to just explain, did not play, not even by one of the rules. So then why did you give the ability for them to continue making money?
So I think you know, Chairwoman, that we about a week ago announced additional individual sanctions to hold accountable some of the key officials that were involved with the electoral manipulation that we're talking about, as well as some of the brutal repression that we've detailed in our testimony. That was a way in which we are beginning to hold accountable those associated with Maduro who have been most responsible.
And that is fantastic. Those people then cannot leave Venezuela and go to Disney World or go to Broadway or enjoy the fruits of what they stole. I got it, but I'm talking about our oil companies, and not only ours, but you're not answering my question. So I'm going to go to the next one. 50 companies have applied for a Venezuelan oil license. 50. Shell from Netherlands. Did you grant a license? Yes or no? To Shell.
I would refer you to OFAC and the Department of Treasury with respect to decisions on
Treasury
individual...
follows state. Did you advise Treasury, yes or no, on Shell?
And
I'm going to make it easy for you. Shell, ONGC Videsh from India, Amos Global from the United States, Kirui Petroleum from Chinese. Because the thing is that the international community, since they don't want to have a problem with the United States, they come to the United States government and says, hey, could I do business with Venezuela? You will not be upset if I do, right? So that's why we have to grant licenses to other people who are not Americans. So I'm asking again, Chevron and the rest, 50 companies, how many licenses have you granted? And the only reason why I'm doing this is because if you grant a license, Maduro has money, and he can beat Maria Corina's supporters on the streets and rape the people in jail. You understand that, right? Money means repression. No money means less repression. Am I right? What am I saying? Where am I wrong? Where do you think I'm wrong?
Chairwoman, in terms of specific license applications, I really can't speak to individual decisions on that. What I can tell you...
I'm only asking you yes or no.
What I can tell you is that, first of all, we do consider the revenue that is generated for Maduro as we consider these decisions. We also consider other factors, broader U.S. interests, as well as where we stand in our broader diplomatic efforts in addressing this problem.
Sir, don't you understand that Maduro is laughing at us? And we are the leaders. You said, one of you gentlemen, you said we're trying to garner some international support. We are the leaders. If the United States is not at the head, Brazil, Colombia, Peru, the rest are, you know this. I mean, you guys are career diplomats. You're serving the country. You're trying to do your very best. I'm not passing any judgment. I'm only passing judgment on the decisions that the State Department has taken. And I'm asking you, why? And you haven't answered.
Well, you mentioned the diplomatic efforts that we've been engaged in, and the U.S. has taken a leadership role in a number of fora, from the OAS
in a very weak manner. That's why Maduro is going like that.
Well,
and we are granting licenses to these people. That's the #1 tool we have. Do you agree with me?
We certainly agree that sanctions are an important part of our toolkit, and that's why we have used them most recently on September 12th, as I mentioned, and we have certainly not ruled out additional actions going forward, whether individual or broader sanctions. Those
All
are
right, so I'm going to ask again, and then you're not asking me, you're not answering, and I understand your position. We're in a democracy. You're not telling me, you're not giving me any information. Is there any way that there is a conversation in Treasury or in the State Department to make a decision, consider the possibility of putting a pause on any of these licenses? Yes or no?
Yes, in the sense that we
Good.
are always assessing how we can best utilize our sanctions.
Do you think that there is a movement within the State Department, starting with Secretary Blinken, to put a pause on any of these licenses and send the message to Maduro, no, my money is, no more money is coming in?
So we are going to continue to consider the whole range of sanctioning options that we have available based on what we see from Maduro, how the situation develops, as well as what we think is going to be the most effective response.
But sir, you're sending a very weak message to Maduro. I'm sure they are analyzing this hearing to the T. Now, next one, Gonzalez. Why don't we recognize him as the legitimate president of Venezuela, like we, past administration, did with Guaido? Why don't we say, yeah, Gonzalez is the legitimate president of the country? Why don't we do that?
There's absolutely no doubt that Edmundo González Urrutia won the most votes in the election. We've said that clearly. Many other governments have also said that. As my colleague mentioned, the Secretary of State has spoken with Edmundo a number of times now.
Why don't we recognize him? We can talk to him 1,000 times, but we got to say publicly, we, the United States, we believe you are the legitimate president, just like we did with Guaido. Why don't we do the same thing with Gonzalez?
So we have recognized that he won the election, and we have called on the Maduro institutions to release the tallies that show that he won the election, as the opposition has essentially already done in the case of 80% of the polling stations. We have also categorically rejected the efforts of the CNE to certify Maduro as the president-elect of Venezuela, as well as the TSJ's efforts to ratify that certification. And in addition...
Very weak.
In addition
we are very weak in the eyes of the Maduro regime, and it's costing us and the rest of the hemisphere. Mr. Roig, 4 million Venezuelans, or Mr. Howell, if you want to give me your opinion, 4 million Venezuelans will be knocking on our door very soon. They have said it, they have announced it. If this money coming in continues, 1,000 Venezuelans are leaving every day. What can we do about that? Because the border is, I mean, we're allowing them because it's asylum, political asylum they are asking. So how do you see Mr. Roig or Mr. Howell?
Thank you, Chairwoman Salazar. USAID and U.S. government is working very closely with countries across the region, including Brazil, Colombia, and Ecuador, which have made very bold policy commitments to welcome migrants into their communities.
They can't hold anymore. It's 8 million Venezuelans who fled. Most of them are in South America. Those countries do not have the public services to provide to these new migrants. So they're coming to the United States, including El Tren de Aragua, because that everything comes in, unfortunately. So do we have any plans?
Yeah, again, we're continuing to strengthen the capacities of those governments, in particular Colombia, Brazil, Peru, Ecuador. Surveys have shown that migrants from Venezuela prefer to migrate to those countries, and we will continue to work with them to build their capacities both at a national level and a municipal level to be able to welcome migrants from Venezuela. But currently, we're not seeing a significant uptick in migration since the election, but certainly it is a concern.
Thank you. I now recognize Ranking Member Castro for 5 minutes, and thank you for your patience.